Okay, test here. Looks like I hit the start button before I sent out notifications. So if you'll bear with me here, I'm going to go ahead and send out a blast. We've got about 90 minutes, and I'm going to set the phones up. So if you're subscribed to the newsletters, I was actually kind of preoccupied here doing some Bing prompt generated art, and I was trying to get it to generate a high-tech tank. And what it gave me instead was a fish tank. And so I had a penguin sitting in a tank full of goldfish, which is not what I was looking for. But no big deal. Again, I'm just sending out notifications. So if you're on ips.monster, which is it's the infiniteplanesociety.com website, but asking people to spell Infinite Plane Society every single time is a bit much. So I purchased ips.monster to make it easier. It's more transmissible as a meme, as a mind virus, but also it's a succinct mission statement. IPS.monster. The dot monster would represent, in my view here, the idea that we are deliberately working towards waking the Kraken here, rousing Leviathan, and that's really been our purpose from the very beginning. Okay, notices have gone out. Now, let me go ahead and activate phones, which are run by Frank Murr. Something tells me we're not firing on all cylinders yet. Okay, now we're on audio. Yeah, again, what I did was I kind of sat down on the mouse and it clicked start. So it started live streaming, and so we are live on the Infinite Plane Radio. Okay, I see. We're on the YouTube channel Infinite Plane Radio. We're on DLive. We're on the main channel. We're on Twitch and Odyssey. Okay, so we're good to go. Let me go ahead and activate phones, and then we'll get started. There's quite a lot to talk about today. I mean, there's always a lot to talk about, but in particular, a lot of strangeness with aliens, I believe demons, Robert De Niro's Trump derangement syndrome seems to be a connecting thread between the Joker movies and the assassination theme, which we got into yesterday, but the reason why De Niro was there is likely his meta-scripted role on the world stage as they seamlessly merge real and fake, Batman and Joker and news. Like, we live in a movie. I mean, I think it's safe to say our worldview is functionally a movie. Um, they create contemporary myths real time. Our news is really just a non-stop reality TV show program. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with this. Tucker Carlson alluded to the idea that the U.S. government entered into an agreement with demons. Now, the phobia regarding AI and the phobia regarding aliens is solely on the right. Why is this? It has to do with trad values and traditional concepts of sin. Incidentally, this would even explain their anti-Jew stuff. It has to do with the idea of synagogue of Satan versus Christ, and that's why they're putting on the trappings of Christianity, which is, it's laughable. You know, Trump is our Jesus, but when you really look at it, this is essentially a political religion slash cult. And so the good versus evil is a huge part of it because the traditional valued right wing believes in traditional evil and sin, whereas the left wing doesn't believe in that. In fact, they believe that these things are just constructs and that the God is fake. So the right wing still believes in the idea that God will punish them with a flood because they're wicked, whereas the left wing doesn't believe in that. So they dismiss it. Yet, conversely, the left believes fully in the new constructs that replace the storm god, climate change. They believe in Gaia and Gaia's wrath. And they also believe in sin in the form of the virus, which, again, to them, that is something that is spread around by the other side, who don't believe in the injectable Eucharist. And they also believe that a flood is coming, caused by the other side and their consumption of fossil fuels and their addiction to consumerism, capitalism. So you can see how it's a perfectly bifurcated psyop, and that's the only reason why Tucker is here talking about how aliens are demons and the government is working with them. Let me play a clip.
It's my personal belief, based on a fair amount of evidence, that they're not aliens. They've always been here. And I do think it's spiritual. That's my view. So, and again, it's not provable, but based on the evidence, I think.
I'm with you.
Absolutely. I think if the U.S. government has, in fact, had direct contact with these beings, whatever they are, I've already told you what I think they are, and has entered into some sort of agreement with them, which is the claim of informed people, I would say. Whether they're right or wrong, I can't say conclusively. But if that is true, I mean, it's a very, very, very heavy thing.
Yeah. A lot of people say...
This is Timcast IRL. That's why you hear a bunch of people clamoring to get a soundbite in. I think they're insufferable. I have a hard time watching these individuals, but they're part of the mainstream media ecosystem. They take up the alt-right, and they're right up here agreeing with him that aliens are demons.
Conjecture, so I just want to say that flat out.
Entity.
But one thing I know for a dead certain fact, having seen it, is that there is good and evil, that we are being acted upon at all times. And I think every person can feel that in himself. I mean, there are moments when you are moved to do things that are much better than you actually are, and that are also more evil and destructive than you actually are. You are subject to forces from outside yourself. That is absolutely true. Now, we can argue about what they are, but every person in the room, if he's reflective, will tell you, yes, I know what you're talking about. And
now, the main point here is that the U.S. government has entered into agreement with these, quote, spiritual entities.
So there are forces that are not human, that do exist in a spiritual realm of some kind, that we cannot see, and that, when you think about it, sort of make you think we live in an ant farm.
Yeah.
Being right?
Okay, so we live on an ant farm, spiritual beings are in control, or there's some kind of spiritual good versus evil thing. All good. He's picking up slack for where David Icke kind of dropped the ball. By the way, this is Infinite Plane Society Evening Deprogram for 5/29/2024. This is JFK's birthday, so if you're out there listening, Q. Happy 113th birthday or whatever it is. And that is, in fact, today, and I have to look into this, today there was supposed to be a group of JFK worshippers at Dealey Plaza. And MAGA is getting weird. In fact, there was a new verb that I heard used today. It was Trump had referred to the spectacle with Robert De Niro being heckled by MAGAs. And he said, he has been maggot. So you can be maggot. To be maggot, it's like being slimed. You know, being maggot is to have been, I guess, shouted at by magas. But anyway, Tucker Carlson let this out here today, this truth. This is very ominous. It sounds very ominous. And he firmly believes it, that our government is colluding with evil aliens. And this is right out of the movie Sputnik from 2020. So if you remember back in August of 2020, Putin releases Sputnik, the first coronavirus vax, and he boasted about having won not just the space race, but the inner space race, the race to cure this thing, the vax race. So we called it Sputnik, and this is all really interesting, but the movie Sputnik came out of Russia at the same time. And this is a movie about cosmonauts who have some kind of a space accident, and when they come down, it turns out that the aliens are in them. Like, they basically, the aliens exist as a form of a symbiotic relationship they form, like a parasite and a host, and they live within the esophagus. Now, interestingly, when they decide to feed on a human, they crawl out of the person who is generally asleep, and they go up to the victim, and they show their true form, which is a big demon. And it scares their victims, and it's just a way of, I guess, extracting all of their adrenochrome. In fact, let me see what it says here on the Wikipedia. Now, the main point here, too, is that the big reveal is the cosmonauts find out that the governments of the world have already struck a deal with these things, and they're feeding them humans. It says here, she discovers that the creature is affected by hormone levels, and that one of the videos she has been shown has been altered, which leads her to discovering the horrifying truth. The creature does not feed from whatever Constantine eats, but eats live humans that they have been feeding it prisoners, and the creature shows itself to its victims to augment their fear, which makes the human brain release cortisol, from which the alien obtains its nutrition. Now, this is very on brand for 2020 with all the talk about adrenochrome and stuff, but this is another adrenochrome like story. Not at all far from what David Icke used to say. He said that the queen would turn into a reptilian, that she's a shapeshifter, and she'd be this 12-foot tall alien shapeshifter. But she said specific, or he wrote in his book specifically that the reason why they would change their form in front of their victims would be to spike their adrenaline, terrify them, and they fed off the fear. So there's that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on my phones. So I'm muting it so you don't have to actually listen to the prompting. So just give me a moment here. We'll just take a few seconds. Punching in my code. By the way, today again, JFK's birthday. I haven't seen anything yet, but we're looking to see. There's supposedly some kind of gathering at Dealey Plaza. I'll tell you what, if somebody wants to call in, I'll dial in. I don't think I can do it with the volume off, and I don't want to risk annoying people needlessly with the keypad as I enter all these numbers. Again, I got started early by accident. I hit the start button. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Going through your comments. Yeah, what is he doing here? What is Tucker doing? AngsG says, what's next? Tucker Carlson interviews Bat Boy. And look at the kind of stuff that Joe Rogan has signed off on. I mean, he signed off on this 1 times 1 is 2, which isn't some profound insight into the nature of reality. It's semantics. It's someone misunderstanding the concept of multiplication and grouping things for the ease of manipulating larger and larger figures. There's no reason to what he did to break it down on this level. Just mincing words, basically twisting words. I think it's actually kind of almost a sales tactic, like filibustering. Scientology reminds me of this type of stuff where you get very verbose, and at some point, I think you just wear out whoever's listening, and they just start to agree. But anyway, none of what he said sounded to me like anything more than just kind of a misunderstanding of terminology and then running with it. Interesting though that again that Joe Rogan gave him an uncritical audience, didn't challenge anything, and platformed this. But he would never touch flat Earth, for example. He would never touch media fakery, even though he may engage in it a little bit, which is kind of weird. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up phones. So just again, I apologize for the ringer and the dial tone. But
welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please enter your host PIN. When finished, press the pound key.
Again, I usually start this before, but tonight was a little slow, but no big deal. Hopefully, you're not as annoyed by this as I am.
To start your show now, press 1. To hear important...
Okay, we are good to go. Phones are open. The numbers on the screen, 1-563-999-3664.
We are sorry, but we are experiencing a problem with our system. Please try your call again later or report...
Gremlins. That's the second time we've been beset with gremlins. Like, maybe I'm not going to re-up my deal with them. I am done with Skype, though. J Dig says, Tucker said he's open to Flat Earth, but he doesn't know anything about it. Right, well, I guess it's really hard to find. How is he going to find out about it? Like the argument from ignorance, it's just, I don't know. I don't think that's valid. It's like you've had years of this content, to have made some kind of a determination as to what you actually think. It shouldn't be that difficult. Like, has he questioned the ball would be my question. Like, do you doubt the globe? And his follow-up statement, when he said he was open to the flat earth, his follow-up statement was, but I believe in the globe because I believe in guns. That's what he said. He believes in the globe because he believes in guns. Does that make sense? He says that he shoots long distance when he's hunting and he has to account for the curvature of the earth. So I'm wondering, how far away is he taking these shots at elk and deer that he has to calculate the curvature of the earth? But anyway, a very flippant, shallow remark. I don't take it too seriously. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Hot Rod here on Twitter, celebrating negative 48 and the 107th birthday of JFK Sr. Okay, so he's 107 today, and you do have a group of cultists, spelled with a Q, out here celebrating at Dealey Plaza. So this is Dealey Plaza and the grassy knoll where they have laid out candles to spell JFK 107. Now, for context, they believe that JFK was the second coming, and it's in Revelation 13, that his head wound is from the Bible. And they believe that he's going to come back, and it's going to unify the entire world against evil, because they will be amazed at this miracle. So this is right out of Revelation. The story's kind of convoluted because then you have JFK Jr., which they say faked his death to help his dad beat the deep state. So it's really an intriguing story. Someone should make a movie about it, I think. But anyway, they're actually here believing that JFK might show up, like the Great Pumpkin in Charlie Brown. In fact, they're kind of like Charlie Brown. You know that cartoon where he's running to kick the football, and the mean girl holds the football for him, and right before he kicks it, Lucy is her name, she pulls the football. And she does it to him every single time. And he just lines up again, and she makes a fool out of him every single time. Well, this is like the third year that the JFK cult has gathered at Dealey Plaza, and he hasn't shown up. He keeps standing them up.
Did everybody that needs water get some water?
Okay, they have 107 candles here. I guarantee they counted it. Now, where do these people gather? Someone says, is this all on Telegram? It's on Twitter, on X rather. It's blown up. That one account I used to harangue, I called him out as being, I put him on the truther wall of shame because he made these grandiose claims. They never came true, and he kept on going. And I believe he had a couple hundred subs when I met him, when I came across JFK fan 12345. Now he's like at 20,000. And it's just full-blown fan fiction at this point. They make it up as they go. They're like, I think Trump is the son of Elvis and General Patton. I'm like, okay. And they're like, and Baron Trump is actually the son of Donald Trump and Princess Diana, but Donald Trump at the time was JFK in a Trump suit. So JFK at like 90 gets with Princess Diana, which should be problematic because she was rumored to have gone out with JFK Jr. So JFK and JFK Jr. are both seeing Princess Diana, but JFK is the one who impregnates her and she gives birth to Baron Trump. Like, they make this stuff up as they go. They don't correct it, and they all agree. They retweet it and they move on to the next day. And like, wow, my mind's blown. Can't wait for some more Q drops, some more truth. It's absurd. It's deranged. This is so deranged. Anyway, here's a group of these individuals camped out here. You know, if I had the budget for it this year, maybe next year, I will do it. Maybe I'll do this in November because they're here for JFK's birthday, but they'll be here for his death day. We should rent a Ford Lincoln and maybe do the whole thing. You know, have someone dress up like Jackie Kennedy, someone else with a JFK mask. We could reenact the whole thing. They would probably chase the car down like Beatlemania. These people are deranged fanatics. There's no other way to describe this. It's a collective psychosis.
Yeah, honey, what's the water? I'm at Bill's bringing some. Okay. Water?
I'm kind of relieved that I don't see any children here. I don't see any children. It's mostly, you know, if I had to sum it up for those who are just listening, if you can imagine JFK Jr.'s groupies, a little more aged, but no less enthusiastic. just lit with erotomania, gathering on a grassy knoll. Like this is these individuals here are in a certain demographic. Like there's no children here. The numbers do seem to be dwindling, but it depends because on X it is being inflated, and I don't think it's organic. I don't think it's real. As in, I don't think anybody would be arriving at these conclusions if it weren't for government agents and operatives creating this mythology specifically to damage them. I mean, this is brain damage. This is worse than that. This is what would you call this? Cognitive infiltration, cognitive warfare, sabotage. That's really what it comes down to. Lord Laney says they're crazy, spelled with a Q. Yeah, yeah. Well, look, this is a deliberately engineered cult, is my point. This is why I find it so fascinating. They engineered this cult in the way that they, when I say they, this is a psyop, like every other psyop. And there's indications that, for example, look at radical Islam. How many of these terror attacks were feds, were psyops, were creating an illusion? It's illusion warfare. This is the same thing. They created this mythology, this domestic violent extremist MAGA fringe. And a lot of these individuals could be actors. They could be provocateur. That's what I'm saying. It's not organic. Nobody would arrive at this. And most people would have moved on as nothing has come true. But just seems like they're often breadcrumbed, which is a typical cult tactic. They don't get the Great Awakening. They get little clues to keep them strung up, to keep them chasing the next hit of hopium. And this has been ongoing, and that's the strategy, I believe. I mean, it's hard to deny that this is intentional when you look at things like Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump, first arrest will shock the world. There's so many Q drops that you can almost prove anything at this point, and they often do this. But this is blasphemous. But at the same time, I think it's something of a Ponzi scheme in itself. They invest all their social capital into this inside knowledge that everybody's going to find out about when it blows up. And they're right there at the bottom, at the ground zero when this thing takes off. So they're going to be there, big winners along with everybody else. So yeah, again, it's a delusional, psychotic event here, and hopefully we'll catch up with them. All right, let's move on. We have quite a lot to get to. Old footage shows Robert De Niro lashing out at the French police and France's judicial system after they questioned him in 1988 about his involvement in a prostitution ring that trafficked minors. So there's a huge effort now to destroy Robert De Niro.
And a totally unnecessary one. And I've heard, like a lot of people told me that they were apologizing, were embarrassed. I think the police were even embarrassed. It just shouldn't have happened. And the judge knew that I was there. I'd been there for months. And it just shouldn't have happened. And if I had known it was going to happen, I wouldn't have come back. I would have said, arrange that this does not happen, because the judge knew that I was going to.
This is from '88, and this has been dredged up by the nonners, of course, for the obvious reasons. But he went out there to confront Trump, and some are saying this is an attempt to taint the jury pool. There's a lot going on. Like, here's an example. There's about half a dozen QAnon shamans, all shirtless, wearing the buffalo horns outside of the New York courthouse, banging on drums and doing mantras. Again, there's a group of them. These are Q shamans wearing Trump flag capes. And you'd like to think that this is some kind of a Democrat operation to make them look foolish. Because Democrats are known for dressing up like Klansmen and photobombing Republicans. Like, this is an old strategy. So this could be a group of Democrats, hypothetically dressed up like this. But when you really look into these characters, no, they believe it. And they're following the Q shaman's lead. And I think the tendency is to downplay it. I've always encountered this, especially with the people who are really invested in exposing QAnon to the mainstream media, people like Mike Rothschild. They want to minimize the strangeness, the fringe. And I'm like, no, those are the true believers. That's where you need to pay attention. Everyone else um, is behind them. They really are. That's why the Q shaman was the one who made it into the Capitol with his spear.
Her district. She goes to Met Galas and she forgets her district. She got rich off being a congresswoman and her district.
I think that's a
is
cowbell.
I am the Republican and serving.
So one of these guys with the buffalo horns is wearing a cowbell. Anyway, I'm not going to keep playing this, but I'm just saying that this is unbelievable. This is the direction the Trump train has gone. Who's steering this thing? Who's driving this thing? We have an update regarding the Las Vegas alien video, the 8-foot tall creatures. I was annoyed that the family who called the cops on them, on the aliens, didn't record the aliens, but rather they told the police what they were seeing, and they described them as 8 feet tall. They came back, I think, into the headlines. The same family, they were making headlines again, not for aliens coming back to Earth, but rather they had spiritual or poltergeist activity at their house. They said that the aliens were causing Bibles to float around and crosses to float around the room upside down. So this kind of stood out to me as a continuing example of the idea of aliens being conflated with the demonic. So more demonic incidents at Las Vegas UFO house. Claims of UFO, aliens, military activity have been viewed in a different light since this Pentagon whistleblower, David Grush. I think that's the guy that got Tucker Carlson started on it. But let's get the update here. This is from Insider Paper. New Las Vegas alien video shows 8-foot tall creature in cloaks creeping around yard. Expert says these are, quote, real and authentic. So in the background of this body cam footage, there's something going on in the lighting and the shadows, and what they're saying, and this is from a alien video expert, Scott Roeder. They're saying that this is an alien wearing some kind of cloaking garb, a cloaking device. It says here, 1 second in the video contains 30 frames, and there's a head with smoke around it, which is some sort of a cloaking device, he says. I applied the same principles I would to any homicide investigation, said Roeder, who's testified in murder trials before, and he said, quote, at this time, with what we've seen, this is proof of a couple of things. These entities are real, that's not fake, and this is not a fraud. But Angel Kenmore called 911 reporting he saw a tall, skinny alien creature with greenish color, about 8 to 10 feet tall, hiding behind their forklift in the backyard. For a minute there, I thought he was describing Robbie Davidson. We haven't seen him since he ran off the edge of Flat Earth after being chased out of a conference for trying to stop a conference attendee from calling the police after Jake Bird from the Jimmy Kimmel Show groped her. Just a little bit of a tangent there. If you know who I'm talking about, if you know, you know. Skinny alien creature with greenish color. It doesn't mention meth burns on the lip, but anyway, going on. 3 family members are walking in a line on the video and they react to something and run. Debunkers have dismissed this alien sighting as a shadow or a smudge, calling it a hoax or an overreaction. It says here, they believe after spending hours breaking down the video frame by frame, quote, you have to look at the totality of the evidence and the visual anomalies. Diana South says Antarcticans. Right. What's up, Tom Servo says, hail Tim, thank you for joining. Well, I'm more interested in this story. Demonic incidents. More disturbing incidents. Angel Kenmore. Nice name. The name is kind of interesting too, considering Angel Kenmore saw an inverted cross float across the room and a Bible flipped over. In fact, I think he even says this on camera. Now, do they have any kind of way of vetting these stories, or is the news media just going to naively report everything as potentially real until proven fake? Like, I don't know how they decide what is and isn't worth covering, but anyway, let me play this clip here. It says here, the Las Vegas teen who claimed he saw non-human beings now tells News Nation that there are strange occurrences in the house.
I have to ask you, what are you making? Because there's something really interesting about this. And it's that last night it was reported there was more strange activity in and around the home. What is going on here?
Right. The story goes that just about a year ago, the Kenmore family saw these mysterious, unidentifiable creatures in their backyard right here behind me, right? They said that they were 10-foot-tall creatures, that they were standing there looking at them. They could see them breathing. Angel says that he was actually growling at him, freaking them out so much that they actually called 911. Well, it turns out that these unidentified, unexplainable phenomenon didn't just stop at that night. Angel went into great detail with me during our one-on-one conversation about other paranormal activity that's been happening, but this time inside of their house. It goes beyond just seeing shadows and hearing whispers.
All right, so he sits down with them and listens uncritically, like Joe Rogan, listening to any of his guests. Just let them say it. Don't challenge it. This is, well, my point here, I guess, is that these are memes and ideas that they purposely want out there. They need the public to believe in aliens for some reason. And I think it's, well, there's a few reasons. Part of it is that the alien is an updated version of the angel. And the position on angels and aliens is very interesting when you look at it politically. Because the right wing is going to be against the aliens. And the left, of course, loves them. And the left loves illegal aliens. And the right wing is against them. Not a coincidence. You see these overlapping stories where they're warning you about scary aliens from over there and then scary aliens from up there. Not a coincidence. It's part of the same programming. But let's listen to this crisis actor.
I was in another room. My brother called me, and there was a upside down cross, and there was a Jesus statue in it. They ripped Jesus out of it. They threw him like across the room, and it was.
Okay, so it ripped Jesus off the cross and threw it across the room. Like, this would only be scary to people who are traditional Catholics. I think it's laughable. I think it's kind of corny, in fact. But let's continue.
It was floating upside down.
Are you saying floating in the air?
Yeah, like in the air. It was floating upside down.
What did you do? I mean, did you go pick it up? Did you knock it down? Like, how?
No, I didn't do nothing. I was just sitting there. I was crazy. I was like, what?
But how did it come down? It's not still floating right now, is it?
No, it came down. So we got closer to it and then it dropped.
It fell to the ground. A crucifix,
yeah,
floating in the air, upside down. The Jesus on the crucifix had been ripped off.
Yeah.
And it was...
Like, if it's this easy to get an interview on something preposterous, I need to start calling the news. Like, hey, yeah, well, the ISS isn't real, for starters. And then, one by one, we'll start kind of going through the long catalog of fake things accepted as real. We'll break down how the media works, and I'm assuming that they're just going to be a captive audience. Judging by this, they're absolutely not vetting. That's my point. They're not vetting this, which means this was let through. That's why I'm calling him a crisis actor.
Floating.
Yep.
And you can say definitively, without lies, that that is what you saw.
Yes. Swear to God, that's what I saw.
Okay, and what about the Bible? What did you tell me about the Bible?
Oh yeah, the Bible. So I was chilling normal. There was just a Bible just going like this, flipping the pages. But it was like steady, like it wasn't because of the air. It was steady, like somebody was holding it. As soon as I got close to it, it dropped again. It just dropped again.
Again, the Bible, the crucifix. He must have watched The Exorcist. Skyfish says, about as good as a day-old gas station corn dog with ketchup. Well, he's being coached here, too. Apparently, they had a one-on-one talk, and he's being prompted to tell this story. And what I'm suggesting here is that the alien agenda is to convince people that aliens exist, one, but also to keep society divided. And it's divided on the lines of progressive utopianism, scientism, space as the new heaven, versus traditional values who accept the old version of angels and are going to fear the aliens. And the idea of science is progress, science is savior. I mean, this is a psychological operation, and they need one side to take this position.
Inside your house, not outdoors,
No,
wind,
inside, yeah.
no wind factor, but the page is steadily turning on a Bible.
Yeah.
And you have the same justification for that as well, demonic presence?
Yeah, I can see demonic presence, yeah.
The pages of the Bible were moving on their own, and
Now, the thing is, okay, it's demonic, we'll say. How come they arrived from a spaceship? They arrived from like up above. There were sightings of it. So you have these physical beings, but now they're doing these sort of blasphemous things, like B horror movie blasphemies, turning a cross upside down. I don't know. This story is just really flimsy and weak, and this crisis actor has obviously been coached. I hope they paid him for this.
An actual crucifix hanging upside down?
Yeah. So we had a couple priests come over to the house, pray over the house, and everything seems to be normal again.
Oh, they had priests come by and decontaminate. Now, you couldn't at least show us the cross that had the Jesus ripped off of it. We should be able to see that. Like there should be some evidence. They're not asking. This is why I think you could take a charcoal brisket and you could tell them, hey, a space rock, hit my dog, and they'll come over and report on it. Like this is idiocy. I don't mean to be rude. I mean, I hope he's getting paid for this. But the reporter is engaging in uh, something that's less than objective news reporting. It's like myth building, I guess you would call this.
Are you connecting all these things together, everything you saw in your backyard to the things you've experienced over these past few months?
Yeah, to be honest, yeah, I think so. I still have an explanation of what it is, still.
Dinah South asks, do priests still make house calls? Right, right. If you have demonic activity, I think you just call a local Catholic church and they send over, it's like Uber exorcists, and they sprinkle holy water and they cast it out. Unbelievable. Well, apparently this is very believable. Let me go through the comments and see if people are going along with this. The guy being interviewed needs to wear a GoPro 24/7. Next commenter says, soon after I accepted Jesus, I went to see friends at a bar. I saw black shadows flying above people, intertwining between people on the bar stools. If he thinks it's a demon, I believe him. Okay. Aliens out here gaslighting this poor family. Aliens are demons, says John Doe. Makes sense to me. After my YouTube research. I believe him. He's a genuine kid. I believe him totally. This was the night the aliens broke out of Area 51. Ephesians 6:12. We do not wrestle against the flesh and blood, but against the rulers, authorities, cosmic powers, and the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places. Okay. Ephesians 6:12 kind of sums it up here, that the aliens are demons, which kind of does make sense. It makes more sense than an advanced version of us from some other planet coming down here to check on us, or whatever they say. The extraterrestrial aliens from outer space is comical at best. Okay, continuing. He should rent out the house for people who are into aliens and ghosts. He could make some money. Seeing is believing. That's nice. Romana0162. Pinmouth2649 says, I've also heard of paranormal activities when UFOs are near a house. Well, I want to remark that the first person to spot a UFO was someone who was involved in summoning it, Marjorie Cameron. Marjorie Cameron, 1946, hanging out with Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, doing witchcraft, summoning the Antichrist spirit into the world, open a portal or something. A year later, she sees, or later that year, she sees it. She sees a light from the sky. And this was a year before Roswell. And this was in the context of summoning demons. So demons and aliens have always been connected. I mean, I guess maybe not always, but since 1946-47, you can't really separate it from the occult, just as you cannot separate NASA from the occult when you get down to it. Do you all remember those videos of demons on the ISS? I used to go into that. Trump was born in wasn't he born 6/14/1946? Blood moon. Just months after the June 14th, 1946. Now, Trump's grandmother died. Anyone care to guess? I think it was Jurassic Liars pointing this out. Elizabeth Christ Trump died on June 6, 1966. And then the father's Fred Christ Trump. Let's see here. Other grandmother was Mary. when you get into it, there's a lot of fascinating scripting into this Trump character. They really put a lot of work into this. All right, let's move on. Just going through some comments from people who are watching this crisis actor. Sounds like a dog is being slaughtered in the backyard. Okay, let's play some more of this video. I want to hear the dog.
Pretty weird, and I have no clue what it is.
What did the priest say when they actually came to your house?
They're saying that it might be fallen angels,
Fallen angels.
like demons or fallen angels, something like that.
Fallen angels inside your home.
Yeah, that was pretty creepy.
How does it make you feel about living here still?
But right now I feel good, you know. Just a lot of time priests came over, and but yeah, but you know, whatever happened.
Okay, there's a dog in the background being tormented by a fallen angel, dressed up as an alien with a cloaking device. Lickety Split says AI is alien tech. Yeah, I finished watching Atlas with Jennifer Lopez. It's comic book action. I don't have any problems with it as a movie. It's entertaining. The special effects are not all that realistic. It's kind of, I don't know, I find science fiction to be funny. It's like Spaceballs, like they're all funny to me. They're all unintentionally funny, but I do enjoy science fiction. And this movie AI, or Atlas, is about this AI terrorist. And this is such a reoccurring theme on Netflix where the artificial intelligence realizes that man has to be destroyed for man's own good. James Cameron made this the theme of Terminator. And if you think about it, it all ties in to the metaphor of the Titanic as the West sinking. The West is going to sink us all if we don't stop it. This was the story of Don't Look Up, which is like the Earth as Titanic colliding with a space iceberg, a comet. Same theme. Angst G says Atlas got some bad reviews. Yeah, it got terrible reviews, which made me watch it. Because I tend to find that the popular reviews are an indicator of what I'm going to like. I just go the opposite. The fewer stars it has, the more I'm probably going to like it. But this movie, again, was about this AI deciding to wipe us all out. Same thing was in The 100. If you haven't seen The 100, it's a reset movie. The Earth gets nuked, and there's human babies on arcs that are descending to repopulate. And this was all done at the behest of the AI that was controlling world government, who realized we're going to have to get rid of you for your own good and then manage your populations by diminishing it significantly. Reoccurring theme in almost everything. So in this movie, the character, the AI terrorist, not only looks like the Terminator from T2, and they borrowed heavily from it. The one eye symbolism's all there. So that's all significant. But what's more, I think he looks like Elon Musk. And they're all about Neuralink. Like Neuralink is the devil. Neuralink is what enabled them to take over. Okay, let's go through some comments. Leonard DeYuta says the alien is from the Diddyverse. You know, there's rumors that there are videos that are going to be released soon involving Diddy. But I don't know. They're probably going to Epstein him. Has anybody called that yet? Diddy didn't kill himself? Seems like there's a lot of accounts that are promoting this idea. I do have the video on the screen if you want to look. You look at the bottom of the fence and the gaps and the top, and it does look like there's a shadow that enters the shot. Now, this shadow is seen on both sides. Is this evidence? The expert says so. Aliens, man. Okay, let's move on. This is just an update. Again, the demonic aliens have been found on video. Alex Jones, breaking news, AI takes control of gas pumps. Now, I'm just going to briefly gloss over this. We have a moratorium on Taylor Swift, Alex Jones, and chemtrails, but I have to bring this up because I want to point out how the pre-auto-hoaxing conspiracy theorists, because we are the new, we are the cutting edge, the cutting fringe, we are the tip of the spear. We're not in their box. And the people who are in the box are used to just, out of, I guess, training and indoctrination, they take it for granted that if it's on video, it's real. They don't really parse it the way we do. They don't suspend judgment. They just react, react, react. So truthers react. Auto-hoaxers pause and then respond. Well, here he is saying, breaking video, AI takes control of gas pumps. So let me play this clip and then I'll offer the context.
On a Black Rock ESG. So I just pulled in here to get gas. It says fueling limit, and before this is said under carbon rules, and then the screen flashed. So I'm trying to fill my car up, and I'll probably fill it before then. But it says carbon fueling limit 74. So no matter how much money I have, it's only going to give me so much fuel. So that's the globalist, folks. I'm here at a Valero in Austin, Texas. So look, I got 62 bucks.
Now, here's the thing. He's out here pumping his gas at a Valero, and he's suggesting here that the $74 limit is the result of AI watching him, and the New World Order is stopping him. The truth of it is, the monitor does not say carbon fueling limit. It does not say. What's more, gas stations and credit card companies will limit the amount of fuel that you can pump to avoid chargebacks from stolen or misused cards. This is not a new thing. Over here, if I put my card in, they're going to charge me like $75, even if I'm just putting $10 in on gas, and then an hour later, I'll get that $65 back. I didn't like that at first, but I understand how they do it, so now I go in and pay. But my point of it is, it's to avoid theft and other problems. So my take on it is this. He thinks this is the social credit score being used, the CBDC system being rolled out, that we're living in denial, and that the AI has taken over and they're rationing energy. That's where he's ran with this. This is why I say that truthers live in a nightmare. The normies live in this dream world. They're Truman shows where they're comfortably apathetic. But truthers live in a nightmare where George Soros is behind the gas pump, cutting the amount of gas he can get. And I'm like, the truth of it is, we don't have enough information to agree with him. And we wait and we get the information. So you may not like reader's notes or fact checking, but we really can't just be auto believers these days. Going through some comments. Skyfish says, how can he afford to drive with that huge judgment he owes? Right. He has to pay $1 trillion to the families of, we almost don't want to say. They're so litigious. Strangely, none of them cried. I mean, it was like one of the poorest performances that we've ever seen, and yet that's the one that's paying out. But my take on it too is that he's a fake canary in a fake coal mine. Or another way of putting it, there's a forest of fakery. All these trees, miles and miles, just a vast plain of trees here, and they're all fake. But he runs laps around one, and all the truthers run around him, and they gather around this one tree, and they ignore the rest of them. And meanwhile, here we are, clear-cutting entire forests of misinformation. Lord Laney says, Bill Hicks always leaves me laughing. No, I believe Alex Jones is actually funnier than Bill Hicks. All right, let's move on. Just pointing out here that the previous paradigm when it comes to approaching media is to believe and react, believe and react, believe and react. We've stepped beyond that. And this is one way you can tell a difference between those who have undergone the necessary paradigm shift and those who are still stuck on the wrong side of the screen. If you're still reacting, mostly emotionally, according to cognitive bias, if you're reacting without processing it within its full context, then you're on the wrong side of the screen. And that's one of their main traps, is they just bum rush you with information, narratives, and stories 24/7, where you don't have time to debunk it all, and it's just easier to just believe. And this is a tactic. That's why I say we have to adopt the stance of being non-believers, but not just flippant, low information, knee-jerk, I'm not going to believe this because I don't trust the source, but I'm talking informed non-believers. I know why I don't believe in the things that I say I don't believe in. Okay, moving on here. And again, the fact check was from financialfuelservice.com. Gas stations limit how much you can get in one go. So presumably he could have just moved on to the next pump and then added some more gas if he needed to. Okay, we talked about more information on the 10-foot aliens. I think I have another clip here. Well, we'll do a follow-up on this very soon. This eyewitness testimony. Anyone here find this convincing? I'm kind of thinking this is just an actor hired to do this. He's there in Las Vegas. And also he's wearing a hat. He's like, looks kind of anonymous.
Tonight, a News Nation exclusive. The teenager who made that 911 call is finally speaking publicly at length and laying out exactly what he saw that night and what has happened since.
What do you remember about?
Well, anyway, just keep your eyes out for Angel Kenmore, who lives in a house infested with demons from Mars, I guess. And originally they were 8 feet, now they're 10 feet, so it's like a fish story. Every time I hear the story, the aliens are bigger. Okay, another example of someone not vetting facts or not vetting information. Donald Trump retruthed this. Thank you, Mike. And here's Mike Tyson with a shirt that says, if you don't like Trump, then you probably won't like me. ... And I'm okay with that. Terrible shirt. Mike Tyson is not wearing this shirt. It's a deep fake. But that didn't stop Trump from treating this as an endorsement. It's just the state of the world we're in. It's like a lot of people are just throwing around information, retweeting stuff, and they're just not credible sources. That's really what the bottom line. They're not credible sources. And this is why I go so, I think, consistently against chemtrail belief and Mandela's effects and stuff, is that if we're going to take the stance of being skeptics with an off-world stage perspective, then we have to dispense with these bad habits of accepting things with low information, not vetting what we're accepting as true. Alleged UFO spotted during Blue Angels air show over New York Beach, New York Post. Yeah, someone had remarked that these these newspapers are all basically tabloid now, like the Weekly World News. This is 100% the case. First of all, when someone post something like this, they say, yeah, look, this is a possible alien. No, it's not. It's like saying, oh, this is Bigfoot riding on the ISS. I think that's what it is. Like, why not? I guess. Why not? Could be, right? No. No, it's not a unicorn marking its territory in the stratosphere causing chemtrails either. What you're seeing here is something man-made, or it's a bug. It's that simple. There's this thing called the realm of possibility, and we can all agree that things that don't exist shouldn't be included on the multiple choice quiz about what we just saw. So for example, you're camping, you're out in the woods, and you hear something out in the woods. Multiple choice, A, B, or C. Squirrel, raccoon, or deer. Or D, Bigfoot. Well, nobody should choose D, Bigfoot. However, if you're a Bigfoot believer, you might choose D. And some will say, okay, well, they're going to just let them have that. They believe in Bigfoot and just kind of smirk, let them go with it, fine. Let them have their fantasy. And I've no examples of this. People will go camping in woods where the signs say Sasquatches have been spotted, and people report hearing Sasquatch. And of course, that's not what they're hearing. Now, my point of it is this. There's the logical fallacy at work here, I believe, that is the non sequitur. That, no, there is no logical leap between what you heard and this mystical, hairy, transdimensional creature. Nor is there any logical connection between whatever is on that video and aliens from space. Like, there's just no connection here. But the New York Post shares this information as though there is. And this is, again, I think this is just endemic, this is intrinsic, this is by design, and it's this purposeful cultivation of ignorance, turning people into faulty eyewitnesses. Like we're all at a magic show, bewildered by what the magicians are doing. It's pretty sad, but at the same time, this is business as usual. It shows you that the public is in no position to say they know what's real or fake. Like, when I say we are informed non-believers, I also want to point out that informed non-belief weighs more than low information belief. Low information belief is simply, oh, I believe it because I saw it on TV. Well, if you took the time to deconstruct what was on TV and you've arrived at the conclusion that it couldn't possibly be, your low information non-belief trumps your high information non-belief trumps their low info. So the conclusion that you reach, are you reaching it through parsing the facts, seeking additional context? Or are you, like when you're choosing not to believe, or are you just rejecting it? And conversely, do you believe it because you saw it on TV or because you waited for facts? Again, just pointing this out, the New York Post is there to inflict cognitive dissonance on the masses. Lickety Split says, you're gatekeeping Bigfoot. Wisdom Rain says, if Big Bang and infinity is true, how do the new right not believe in aliens? The big thing now is aliens or demons. This has been a developing narrative for some time. All right, let's continue here. This is Robert De Niro has been Trump deranged for some time, so I kind of want to get into this a little bit more. So I had mentioned yesterday some connections with De Niro, being that he's in the Joker movie. And the Joker movies have had parallels with all of the psyops, the big psyops, since at least Christopher Nolan. But you go back, and in the 1966 episode of the Batman series, it's revealed that his great-grandfather founded the Skull and Bones Society. So there's this extended history you go back with the Batman narrative as it evolved, and it's been merged with the PSYOP entertainment complex's narratives consistently. Christopher Nolan in particular. And people have remarked about the Sandy Hook references, the Boston bombing references, and Dark Knight Rises. You got the Joker shooter. Later, Sarnaff, Joker, the Boston bomber, gets his death penalty reinstated on the day the Batman movie is released, for example. Many more examples. But anyway, in the Joker movie, which preceded the riotous summer of 2020, and the Joker movie was all about kill the rich, it brings out the symbol of the subway representing the underclass. And Joker, a clown, because the societal inequalities made him into a clown, the rich have clowned him. He kills some rich people. That makes him into a hero. The clippings in the newspapers were all saying kill the rich, eat the rich, that kind of thing. By the way, eat the rich, that was a shirt worn by Maxwell Azarello, the guy who burned himself in front of the courthouse. And this is what I'm getting at. Trump is on trial. He's arraigned 4/4/2023. And outside of the courthouse, they're filming Joker 2. As they're filming Joker 2, which has a second coming connotation, we realized, okay, this is 4/4. It's the 44th birthday of Heath Ledger, the previous Joker, not the new one whose name is Phoenix, which has another second coming resurrection connotation. The number 44, 2 crosses, double cross is resurrection. So we've already had this connection between Joker, Batman. Batman has been associated with Trump in many different ways when you get into this meta script. Now, here we are at this next event, at this trial, where Trump's dozing as Maxwell Azarello sets himself on fire outside. The Batman-Joker connections there have to do with the name Azarello, and the general themes here of the Burning Man has connections to Waco, with Dave Koresh burning at 33. We dug deep into this thing. Well, here we are at this latest event, and Robert De Niro's there, and I'm realizing De Niro's in the Joker movie. He's the one who the Joker kills on live TV. And one of the subtexts this entire time has been Trump's coming head wound psyop that will be televised. So this is all kind of adding up. Well, it turns out that the Joker movie with Robert De Niro is largely based on Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese. Well, Taxi Driver has Robert De Niro as Travis Bickle, the guy with the mohawk, and he's a wannabe assassin. Well, that movie was the inspiration for John Hinckley shooting Reagan. John Hinckley has JFK's, in fact, happy birthday, John Hinckley, by the way. Today is John Hinckley's birthday as well as JFK. So the guy that shot Reagan has JFK's birthday. He was born May 29th, 1955. So what I'm getting at here is he was inspired by Taxi Driver, which is the basis for the Joker. Taxi Driver and Joker have Robert De Niro. The taxi driver brings in the assassination narrative, which is something that we have been talking about with Trump. And now this. A couple more little points. This is from Decoding with Cody. Mentioned something. These are some fascinating connections. I'll go through them one by one. Do I really need to say, and this is from Cody1922 on Twitter, do I really need to say much about how this script was coded? Don't forget, De Niro played the Don in the Godfather movies. So he's remarking on De Niro's connection to this bigger story. And Robert De Niro claims Trump could, quote, destroy the world outside Manhattan court. So breaking this down, he highlights Robert Manhattan destroy the world. And is a quote here from Robert Oppenheimer. Now I have become death, the destroyer of worlds. So the destroyer is a reference to Revelation 9:11, the destroyer in the abyss. And remember, on 9/11, James Cameron, who filmed the Titanic, a metaphor for the sinking of the West, on 9/11 he was there at the Titanic filming Ghosts in the Abyss. Revelation 9:11 mentions the destroyer in the abyss. His capsule is called the Challenger, the Deep Sea Challenger, by the way. But connecting this together, the destroyer, the Terminator, Apollyon, Abaddon, these are all names that reference the nuke. Godzilla is a metaphor for the nuke. He's the beast in the sea, the Kraken. These all tie in to this beast in the abyss. And by the way, there's another billionaire going down to the Titanic very soon. So the connection here, though, is, again, the phrase destroyer is a 9/11 reference. So Robert and Manhattan Project, Robert Oppenheimer, destroy the world. And again, Robert De Niro comes out and he says, Trump will destroy the world. A couple more things. There's some fascinating connections between the Trinity site event, and I'm not going to get too much into the dates here, but I'm just mentioning that he played the Don in The Godfather. So what I added to this was a bad Don. So Revelation 9:11 references this thing called Abaddon, and ever since Trump's been on trial, we've consistently seen him represented as a mafia Don. And the Hebrew word for destroyer is Abaddon. So it's literally a bad Don. This is all tied in to James Cameron's Terminator. The Terminator is the translation for Apollyon, the ex-Terminator, same thing. Interestingly, there's another Terminator movie that follows this one, and there's a robot in there, and its name is Rev 911. Rev 9. Yeah, Rev 9 in its human form. It's a Terminator character. This is a connection again to Revelation 9/11, James Cameron, Titanic, Terminator 2, and the sinking of the West, which is what the Twin Towers sinking also represented. So my point here, De Niro's out here for a reason. It has to do with his persona, his character, as we've seen him as Travis Bickle, the John Hinckley-like assassin, with the JFK connection. And again, just the other day, General Flynn said, when they read the verdict, it's going to be a JFK moment. So we have this JFK buildup, and it's JFK's birthday. So what are we seeing here? If you ask me, the connection here is the impending headshot of the guy on TV, and they're just carrying the plot forward with all of these characters. Dewis in Paris says, so will Trump troll De Niro the way De Niro trolled the Joker? Now, that's interesting, because let's get to that. I mentioned the new verb, maggot. So maggot is what happens when you get shouted down by a bunch of magas. And Trump just came out today in front of the courthouse, and he said something to that effect. He said that Robert De Niro got maggot, is what he said. Maggot, here it is. He's a broken down fool standing out there, and he got maggot. This is from Fox News.
Robert De Niro yesterday is a fool. He's a broken down fool standing out there, and he got maggot. He got maggot yesterday. He got a big dose of it.
He got maggot. Got a big dose of it. So there we have it. And again, De Niro being trolled by Trump, the Joker being trolled by De Niro, then he shoots De Niro. There's something going on here. This story's unfolding. He also said at the same press conference, Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. This is rigged. The whole country's a mess. So now he's compared himself to Jesus, to Moses, to King David, and now Mother Teresa. He's on his way to apotheosis.
I would say, in listening to the charges from the judge, who's, as you know, very conflicted and corrupt, because of the confliction, very, very corrupt. Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged. The whole country's a mess between the borders and fake elections, and you have a trial like this with a...
Anyway, droning on, playing the martyr, playing the victim. Daily Wire on X. An Ohio billionaire is planning on taking a deep-sea submersible to the bottom of the ocean floor in the northern Atlantic to tour the wreckage of the Titanic just 1 year after another submersible imploded at the site. Now, this event was all correlated and connected to the bigger meta script going down to the Titanic in the Titan on summer solstice. And this is during this 3-day period. Solstice means sun stands still. And during this 3-day period, the world waits with bated breath as this submersible is being searched for, when we find out that, yeah, it imploded. But the connection here is the summer solstice is the day we enter Cancer. Cancer, the crab. And the crab descending from the gate of Cancer. The whole story here is about the descent of souls. So you have this descending submersible going down. And I think it was meant to be ritualistic. There are many things we looked into that connected it to the bigger story. But the fact it was going down to the Titanic and it imploded, I think there's a reason why they're doing this again. It's some kind of ritual, but it's definitely correlated with the summer solstice. And of course, the solstices are very significant in the occult calendar. The whole crucifixion of the sun god on the winter solstice is very well understood. And this is more of the same. The crab seemingly stays still for 3 days. The sun's position in the crab. This ties into, of course, James Cameron, JC, Jesus Christ. 33 trips to the Titanic. $33 million mansion. His movie Terminator is about JC, the savior, John Connor, being stopped by T2 Terminator. And by the way, I mentioned earlier, it's all about Judgment Day. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Second Coming. The 4-4, where Trump was being judged on that date. The 4 is a cross. 2 4s is double cross, Second Coming. Same with the X's. 2 X's, double cross. Same goes for 2 T's. It's the T is the original cross. And these are all very hugely significant in this script when you're decoding it. Even T2, you put the T and the 2 together, you get the symbol of Saturn, because the Terminator represents the Terminator line, 1, where night kills day. That's the symbolism of the Lord of Darkness, Saturn, versus the sun ruling the day. And the way that the wizards and media represent the symbol of Saturn is quite often by putting 4-2 right there in your face, or encoding it in some way. George News tweeted this. And by the way, I got to George News with one of my sock accounts, and I shared with him the proof of service. He has 30 days to respond, so we'll see. But here he is tweeting pictures of Officer Fan 1 from January 6, one of these crybabies. And he's noting that he has a tattoo on his chest, SPQ. What is that? What is SPQ? I don't know. Others are saying he's got cartel tattoos. Some think he's Hunter Biden's drug dealer. I think he's an actor, of course, and he's always seen around actors. He was hanging out with Robert De Niro. Tominoy says T2, 2 towers. Yes. In fact, Jurassic Liars got into the code with the, like even the word attack and Seattle, the double T. It's all about Judgment Day. SPQR, some Roman thing. Okay. All right, moving on here. We'll follow along with this submersible, and then we'll revisit what I claimed at the time was a psyop directed by James Cameron. Now, we may have to kill it with fire, the Mandela effect. I don't think it's going to go away. And even though I believe we have succinctly debunked it, deconstructed it, we know what causes it, the logical fallacies that allow people to go along believing in it still persist. And it's okay to be a unicorn believer, a Bigfoot believer, a Mandela effect believer. I'm not here to tell people what to believe, but I'm a non-believer. I prefer to know. This is the information age. We shouldn't be wandering around in the dark. We should be able to find out what is and isn't true. A lot of people aren't really clamoring for that. There's not a huge demand for it, apparently. My point is this. The Mandela effect has been categorically debunked. It's not about, well, this one resonates with me, or maybe this one does, maybe this one does. No, it has been categorically debunked as a phenomenon. Like, oh, that noise I heard, that might be Bigfoot. No, it's a squirrel. Well, the next one you hear, that could be Bigfoot. No. The next noise you hear, no, it's a bear. Next noise you hear. You can't just keep moving the goalpost or keep leaving it open to the possibility that the next thing you hear is going to be Bigfoot. Or the next misremembrance you have could be a Mandela effect. Bigfoot hasn't been demonstrated to exist. The Mandela effect has not been demonstrated to exist. Therefore, it has no place. It's non sequitur. It's not a valid claim. The only claim you can make is, I misremembered something. And we've talked about these endlessly. And John Levon had a recent conversation with Brian Staveley, and they talked about this, and apparently they don't think it's been debunked, which is fine. It just means that I have to deal with this. I have to do the Mandela Effect documentary. We really have to smash all the embers. You can't leave one ember alive because the fire will come back. You have to extinguish these things. This is beyond just misconceptions. This is an active measure psyop. And the reason why people think that Chick-fil-A didn't have a K previously, that it was CHIC, filet, is that when you get a burger or fries from Chick-fil-A or your chicken sandwich, the wrapper goes around the box or goes around the food. The French fry box has the logo wrapping around the side. So the K is around the corner. The K is on the other side of your burger. It's there, always has been there. But when people consume this, they don't really look too closely, but if they are paying attention even in the periphery, they are remembering, they are seeing CHIC. They're not seeing the K. So later, when the Mandela effectee says, hey guys, do you remember Chick-fil-A with the K? They say no. And they're being honest with themselves, they don't remember. He says, oh, because CERN, because reality shifted. It was a change. Everything changed. Reality's fluid. And it's like, well, no, there's got to be another explanation. A simpler explanation that doesn't require the supernatural, leaps of logic. We can go ahead and rule out the supernatural when it comes to a misremembrance. People misspell words, misremember things all the time. So the persistence of this Mandela effect is simply, I think, a failure of the truth movement to root out bad argumentation and to cling to, I guess, emotional attachments to being right. That's really what it comes down to. But let me play a clip here. Just I'll put a link. I think everyone should watch this. I'm just going to share it, and we'll deal with this in a more organized and formal fashion.
Listeners all around the world, have you eaten at a Chick-fil-A? And how do you spell Chick-fil-A? Because a good friend of mine who used to live in Boston, now lives in North Carolina, he reckons it used to be spelled differently. That's what he tells me. I wouldn't know either way. Well, how about objects in mirror are closer than they appear? You see, he asked me, the thing that it says on the mirror, what does it say? And I said, well, I think it says objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. And he said, yes, that's what a lot of people remember. But that's not what it says. That's not what it's ever said. So what?
Now, again, these are common misconceptions, And there are many reasons why people would arrive at these. I think a lot of it has to do with how we learn through repetition and how we prioritize what we pay attention to. And I think there are many other explanations when it comes to memes. Acorns, for example, was brought up by a caller the other day, where a popular misconception can actually survive as a functional replacement for what it got wrong. So, for example, Alzheimer's or old timers. Some people they've used this phrase old timers interchangeably, and it's not right, but it conveys the same thing in a way. And this is just, I guess, how people share language, and we are living through language as it evolves. Language evolves all the time. We've been living through some major changes in language. So when the Mandela effect did argue from this idea of this static reality and a little thing changed and it's a big deal, it's like things change all the time. And this is especially true with the Mandela effect misspellings or Bible verses. I had some Bible Mandela effect guy calling me last night, and he was pretty much, I don't know, I think out of control here, out of control with the whole premise. Not to get too much into it, but it's still there, it's persisting, and it hasn't been debunked according to many people. Let's read the comments here. And JLB says, it's time to settle this matter once and for all. I agree. And I agree because it's not a legitimate spiritual insight or miracle, but it is quite literally a faulty memory, a false memory that has been prompted through a process of gaslighting and retroactively interfering with somebody's recollection. It's actually a form of gaslighting. It's mind effery at its finest. It's very refined. This is a psyop. Okay, let's see here. The part where you declared you were one of those people that were open-minded to the Mandela effect, that right there was priceless. Thank you. Vux Sucks says, stop it. California Zero said, many of us as young children driving with parents read the side view mirror over and over, wondering why they couldn't be more specific. Benton says, I hope IPS leaves a comment.
I don't think I've ever...
I am going to be making it a point here to address this in a more formal fashion. We'll see if there's anything else here. Now you're getting it, John Laban. Okay, well, looks like there's a lot of people who are happy to have him on board. And that's one of the factors that goes into this whole phenomenon. When you declare, I am one of you, I am reality fluid, now you have a huge group of people, a lot of new friends who are all experiencing the same thing. Oh, your reality changed too? What was yours? Oh, I remember Ed McMahon. I remember Timmy. I remember Chick-fil-A. Well, I don't remember that one, but I remember this one. So you can have a group of 5 people, and they each have their own effects, and they should be mutually exclusive. Like they should be in different universes, but they all coexist. And even though they disagree, or they haven't experienced the same effects, they all agree that reality has been proven to be false, fake, fluid. And again, I don't have a problem with people believing this, but the issue is this. You're destroying your credibility as an eyewitness. You're like, hey, I don't think anybody died at this event. I think the whole thing's a psyop. But also, reality's fluid, and it could be real tomorrow. Nobody died, nobody cried, but tomorrow 50 people could have died. What you're saying is there is no objective reality, and if reality's fake, the news being fake doesn't even matter. So again, I think it's a fascinating phenomenon. It does exist, but it has nothing to do with reality shifting. And for those who don't want to accept the more likely explanation that one's memory has been toyed with, I can only say you have to investigate faulty eyewitness testimony and disprove that as an explanation. But I'll be raising the bar on this. I'll be raising the standards of evidence for what we claim to be magical, spiritual, or whatever. And the fact that it's not a legitimate spiritual effect means that maybe it ought to be debunked because it's wasting people's time. Think about the cognitive surplus. All these Mandela affected could be devoted to be doing something more constructive. Synchromorphia says, De Niro's outrage is so sluggish and tired it's kind of sad. I think he's naturally an introverted. Despite being an actor and not up for the role. He's half-hearted. Reminds me of Sean Penn in his Ukraine role. Always seems frustrated and embarrassed in his interviews, not wanting to be there. Jay Digg says, this is a perfect description. I called it lackadaisical and forced, but yep, you nailed it. You know, you're right. They probably thought he was going to bring some kind of fire, some credibility, some weight, some gravitas, but he came out as Stormy De Niro. He's being memed mercilessly. But I think he was brought out there because he's been on the world stage as a TDS type, kind of like Alec Baldwin, Trump deranged syndrome. And I think that he is definitely being brought out here because of his connection to the wider story. It brings in John Hinckley. It brings in the specter of the JFK assassin, the Trump assassination. It kind of brings this up onto the stage. Getting some comments here. Dewis and Paris says, now it's a magic mirror. Tomanoid says, chic is like chic, like the band. Chic Filet. Jay Digg says, was the Mandela documentary shelved? No, it's really just a matter of budget, and I will have that soon. Everything's been written, storyboarded. I've done kind of like rough draft takes, but I do need to do an interview with someone who does interrogations. So no, I have about 4 concurrent projects, and I think we'll have it all, in production very soon, pending news on the lawsuit. That could be a game changer. I could finally have the budget that we need to put everything into production. Dewis in Paris says, the now you're getting it comment is so off-puttingly patronizing, like people who say correct, as if they are the arbiters of truth. Well, let's say I just started saying, okay, I believe it. I believe in chemtrails. Would all the chemtrail people gather around and say, finally, you're looking up. Now you're a free thinker. Now you're not a conformist zombie. Now you're outside of Normieville. Welcome to the Matrix. Like, are they going to Morpheus me? They're going to go all Morpheus? Like I'm Neo, I just woke up. Oh my God, chemtrails are real. I think that's part of it. They can stand up and say, yep, you're one of us. You've had the insight. We're reality surfing. Okay, let's move on. That is something. That is part of it. Self-righteousness. And it is a cult. I believe I've gone through most of my notes. There's been this reoccurring theme here, this symbol I've been seeing. It's a evergreen tree on a flag that says appeal to heaven. Justice Alito flew this during the insurrection, and it's been recently found on a number of older videos of Trump from 2020 and even before. So the appeal to heaven flag, what does it mean? Well, it's kind of a dog whistle to the idea that things are so bad that, God's going to give us permission to, kill our enemies. That's kind of it. Another provocative flag was flown at another Alito home. The Justice's Beach House had the appeal to heaven. Since its creation during the American Revolution, this flag carried a message of defiance. Appeal to heaven comes from the 17th century philosopher John Locke, who wrote of the responsibility to rebel and use violence to overthrow unjust rule. It's a paraphrase for trial by arms. The main point is there's no appeal, no one you can ask for help, therefore you can justify violence. Now I'm bringing this up because the evergreen tree was a very prominent symbol in 2020. It was even on George Floyd's trucker hat. But the name Evergreen, street names Evergreen, we had psyops. There was someone who was like a student of George Floyd's girlfriend who was killed a few blocks from where George Floyd was killed. It was like 63rd Street, and it was like he was pulled over because he had an Evergreen air freshener in his car. And because of that, he got pulled over and gets in a shooting. They kill him. My point being, we started noticing the reoccurring symbol of the evergreen tree, and it was constantly being associated with the riots. So here we are looking at this new evergreen tree, and this time it's being associated with the other side. Okay, let's see here. Lickety Split says SF had the flag up and just took it down. Yeah, it's some kind of dog whistle. I think that's what it is. The New York Times has written about it. It's been making the rounds. I've heard about this thing on a lot of podcasts, so I kind of ignored it at first, but now it's making a lot more sense. Appeal to heaven. And I'm seeing it being used in the context of anti-government violence. So just something to look out for. It's a build-up. All right, we talked about Tucker Carlson talking about the government working with demons. Trump deranged De Niro and his connections to the Joker movie via Taxi Driver with its undercurrent of assassination. And it's been cited as an inspiration for John Hinckley shooting Reagan. And John Hinckley, again, today would be his birthday. Would-be Reagan assassin is embarking on a songwriting career and selling art on eBay. Reagan shooter John Hinckley says he's a victim of cancel culture. The would-be assassin and aspiring country singer made the comment after his latest concert was postponed. The man who shot President Reagan in 1981 was obsessed with Taxi Driver. So Taxi Driver and J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye are two we need to be looking closely at. But yeah, he's a YouTube musician. He's been canceled a few times. He got out of the mental hospital a few years ago. I think Saran did as well. Anyway, bringing this up because I think it does have a direct thread with this ongoing storyline, all of it connecting to this build-up for Trump's head wound. And look, we're not the only ones talking about this, but most of the people who are on larger channels who talk about this, like Donnie Darkin and others, who are noticing the predictive programming, they're all Bible pushers, like really deep into Judgment Day, end of times, this is the end, and they're also overlapping with us in some of the things that they use to assess it. My point being, my assumption here is that we are being led to an eventual fake event. There is no reason why I would think that this is some kind of build up towards something they're actually going to do. And we may be the only channel out there not trying to promote the idea that this thing actually happened. We may be like the only alternative to the alternative. All right, let's see what else we have here. Dewis and Paris says, does Trump know there's a fake head wound incoming? Is he privy to the script? Yeah, I would say absolutely. You know, Trump was all over 9/11 predictive programming. He's Biff Tannen, and I would say Back to the Future is one of the most cited movies when it comes to predicting 9/11, and it contains all these other elements that connect with Trump and Christ, and weirdly enough, time travel. Trump at CPAC in 2017 has an appeal to heaven flag on the stage behind him. Yeah, he's 100% in the know. I look at this as season 35 of The Apprentice. And The Apprentice is also a Masonic term. The apprentice is the person who first gets into the cult. Then you pass on to the next level, and then you get raised as a master. And the raising is when you're killed symbolically and resurrected. And when you're killed symbolically, you're playing the role of Hiram Abiff. And I've seen some fascinating connection made between Biff Tannen and Hiram Abiff. Hiram Abiff Tannen. So it's even encoded into that name, and it's always about this symbolic death and then coming back. Let me play this clip here. Trump supporters breaking down in tears. This is like professional mourners outside of the NYC courthouse.
Jesus the Lord. Thank you.
Okay, well, they haven't shot him yet. Maybe this is a foretaste of what we're going to see. There's going to be a lot of crying. There's going to be a lot of crying when they pull this thing off, when they 9/11 us again. And we're not going to be crying.
He's a horror guy. Yeah. He's a
Lean Dion says, did you cover the upcoming Reagan movie? Oh, no, I didn't know there was a Reagan movie. I'll have to take a look. Trump's very Reagan-esque. There's some fascinating stories there between Trump and Reagan. I'm surprised Reagan hasn't taken a more prominent role in the QAnon fan fiction mythology cult, because they've turned General Patton, Marilyn Monroe, the Kennedys into these kind of like superheroes. But Reagan isn't alive right now. How come Reagan's not alive? Waiting to come back and fight the deep state. Let's see here. Hugely popular radio host Charlemagne the God says on the Breakfast Club that Trump is a threat to democracy and led an attempted coup. Quote, let the record show I agree with Robert De Niro. Good to know. Again, De Niro, the Don in The Godfather. He's the talk show host in Joker who gets his headshot on TV. And of course, he is the would-be assassin in Taxi Driver. Republican House candidate Brandon Herrera, who once posted a picture of himself as Jesus with a submachine gun, lost his special election. Wasn't he endorsed by Trump? Yeah, he has himself as Jesus walking on the water holding an AK-47. Very interesting. And he says here, knocked it out of the park with this one. Anyway, more bad MAGA art, bad MAGA rap. We'll follow this story as well in the coming days. Ohio billionaire planning to go down to the site of the Titanic, and Synchro Morpheus pointed it out. His name is Connor. So think about this. John Connor versus the Terminator. Then you have this, reoccurring storyline with James Cameron, another JC, going down to the site of the sunken Titanic. And of course, the Terminator T2 connection here we've already got into, but I just want to point this out, that his name is Connor. So Connor's going down. He's going down to the Titanic. What does that mean? Not quite sure, but this is definitely, I think, another Terminator connection worth looking into. Larry Connor said he'll be making the voyage in a two-person submersible. Okay, so there's two individuals going down, kind of like the Boeing Starliner, where there's two going up, and their names both start with Will. So you've got twins, you've got Will, WW33, Gemini twins, and of course this. You have two individuals going down, Patrick Leahy and Larry Connor. So we'll follow that. This is again going to be happening. I'm not sure it's going to be on the solstice, but we'll see. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Lean Dion says Charlemagne, complete sellout. Yeah, somebody fed him that talking point. All right, I think we've covered pretty much everything. We will have phones on tomorrow for Infinite Plane Radio. You heard it tonight. Gremlins. Blog Talk Radio was simply not working. Wow, big time exposés going down on Robert De Niro. Here he is getting this medal from Barack Obama, and according to QAnon lore, this means that he's on his way to Guantanamo to be killed. Very strange stories. Here he is hanging out with spirit cooker Marina Abramovich, who smears stuff on the wall and calls it art. Cuts herself. She's a cutter, and again, a Hollywood spirit cooker. But yeah, he keeps some very interesting company, which is why he's in the crosshairs of the QAnoners, and it's why he got maggot today. He got maggot, and it's not stopping. Very interesting. We'll see where this develops, because I kind of foresaw this. I was like, look, this obsession with Tom Hanks is dangerous. This obsession with celebrities is dangerous, because on the one hand, and you'll notice this is the case with the QAnoners in general, they literally worship their celebrities. They're like Kevin Sorbo. or James Wood or Tim Ballard. Like they worship their politicians, they worship their celebrities because these celebrities are working for God. And then they demonize the other side. They fantasize about destroying them and killing them. So Democrat, left-leaning, anti-Trump celebrities are all pedovore Satanists who need to die. Meanwhile, Kevin Sorbo and James Wood and who's the SNL guy? Rob Schneider. Yeah, they're white hats and they're on our side and they're above reproach. Plain Dakota says maybe the Trump headwind is apophenia. I'm too familiar with this term. No, it's consistent with predictive programming. I mean, if you can extrapolate from predictive programming that there's going to be a ground zero World War III event starting in Seattle, if you can extrapolate from predictive programming that something's going to happen to the towers, then there's a pretty clear logic here that the predictive programming precedes what they're going to fake. And with the Trump head thing, I thought maybe it's symbolic, maybe it's destroying his character, maybe it's destroying his ego. But the closer it gets, the more specific it gets. It's uncanny. The way he's leaning against the podium to the left, and then you see the blood splatter on the wall behind him in the red of the flag. The pen he throws, and it looks like a bullet going toward his head. I mean, this has been an ongoing thing for years. It's been widely remarked upon. So my contention is this, that this is going to be a 9/11. Like I'm understating it. I can't even overstate it. This is going to shock the world, but it's not going to shock us. Like we're ready for the next big one to not be triggered by it. We'll be the least triggered people in the world when this goes down. But I have no reason to think that there's any deviation from it. In fact, it keeps on getting reiterated. Leave the world behind. 11/22 release date, takes place in zip code with 11963 1963 JFK numbers. And then you have Barack Purdy, the name Barack, who they say looks like Lee Harvey Oswald. And moving this story forward, all the characters and props are on the stage. I've watched 2 movies recently where Trump dies. One of them is called Civil War by the guy who directed 28 Days Later, where they basically kill Trump. That's all. It's a snuff movie. And then I just watched A Man in Fool, where Dumb and Dumber Jeff Daniels plays Trump, and at the end, he gets killed, or he dies, but it's basically the result of the machinations of the guy who represents Obama, the person who plays the mayor who's trying to take him down, this real estate mogul. So we've already experienced it. We've already been inundated with the messaging, the narrative, the story. And then General Flynn saying it's going to be a JFK moment only solidifies it. Tom 103 says maybe he gets a headwind from climate change, the Boeing turbulence. Dewis in Paris says the other side is very bad and we're very good. Never mind that the other side thinks the exact same way. Again, bifurcated Psywar. That's how you know it's fake. Like their poison. Well, this is like both sides will agree to this. Left and right will agree. Their cure will poison us to death. They both agree with this. So if one side it's ivermectin, the other side it's the vax. They each think that the other's cure is going to kill them. And neither of them are dying. They're still on X tweeting at each other. Lean Dion says Man in Fool, Fool. Yes. Oh yeah, and this was clearly a Tom Wolfe novel repurposed for Netflix to be a takedown on Trump. And there's another Tom Wolfe novel, I haven't read any of these, it's called Bonfire of the Vanities, which has also been compared to Trump. So these aren't coincidental. This is more metascripting. It's the movies, it's the novels. They tell us history in advance in very subtle, subliminal ways through propaganda and advertising. So we're ahead of the curve. We really are here. Okay, well, we're going to be live tomorrow, open phones. We're getting close to the date. Today's JFK's birthday and John Hinckley's birthday. According to Tucker, aliens are demons, and they work with our government. We've also talked about the recent developments with Robert De Niro, his Trump derangement syndrome, and the real purpose for him being out there, probably all narrative. MAGA is getting very performative. We talked about the aliens in Vegas who are apparently demons, blasphemers, and are still haunting the house of somebody named Angel. Okay, well, I think we're pretty well caught up. We'll continue this tomorrow. I'm pretty sure we'll have a lot more to talk about as things develop, and we haven't quite covered everything, I know, but I have other things to get to tonight, but we'll continue tomorrow. Get on the newsletter, ips.monster. I have archives from the 27th and the 28th that will be posted tonight or tomorrow morning, and then this one. So I've fallen a bit behind, and as one caller mentioned about the documentaries, are we still doing them? Yes. I have the Q doxing one. I have the ISS takedown, the Mandela Effect documentary. These are all in progress. I have storyboards. In fact, if anybody wants to assist in any way, art, ideas, contribution, I will be assembling these very soon, and we'll be doing this in Gilded, so just let me know. 777 says 611 IPS 24-hour stream live retro auto hoax. Yeah, on 611, how about this? On the evening of 610, we'll get it started, and I'll replay any interviews I've had with JL, and then as we move forward throughout the evening, the next morning, we'll live stream on 611 because we're watching Seattle for Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. We're looking for the fake nuking and EMPing of Seattle. And again, EMP's been a big key word here, electromagnetic pulse, the blackout, which has been the theme of Leave the World Behind and so many other movies. Godzilla, new EMP. Ghostbusters, frozen EMP. Again, Empire, EMP. Anyway, space is fake. Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms. We'll continue this tomorrow. Thanks for all the comments, and I'll definitely get rid of the gremlins that took down our phones tonight.
Looked away from Earth into the black void.
Yeah, because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know,
we were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon.
It's not a black void. I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of polka dots.
Space is fake AF. Space is fake AF.
There's more than stars. You can see planets. You can see moons.
You see the gas.
Away from the sun is the darkest black you can imagine.